Hi, Mark Farina here, and I'm going to show you some paintings that are exhibited in the Carmel Art Association in a solo show titled Icons and Relics of the Monterey Peninsula. A lot of historic buildings that I painted over the years and icons that are uh, reminiscent of the Monterey Peninsula and relics. And some views that have changed due to the winter storms and other causes. So the show is up until the end of the month, July 31st, and but the paintings, if not sold, will be available through the Art Association for 3 months, and then and if you want to inquire about any of the paintings, you can contact me or the Art Association on their website. So let's get started and bear with me here. This is a view of that kind of dominates the bay when you're looking toward the northeast or northeast. And it's the Monterey Commercial Wharf #2. It's where they unload the fish, and there's packing plants there, and you can go down and buy fresh fish. And there's a couple of restaurants further down toward the shoreline on the wharf. You can park out there, and it's sort of industrial and kind of unique. What I liked about this scene, the day I went out there, the boats were all askew because of there was no wind on the bay, and generally they point in one direction. But today, this day, they were just drifting around, and I kind of liked that. I thought it was a little more interesting. This is the wharf also is painted partially in plein air. It's 11 by 14, and it's painted from the Presidio, which is run by the Defense Department Language School. It was one of the first military installations in California by the Spanish. So it's a very historical place, and I painted up there quite a bit during the pandemic because there were not any curiosity seekers or tourists up there. It was I sort of isolated myself during the pandemic. So this is the Fisherman's Wharf, and you cannot get isolated down here. It's full of tourists. This is adjacent to the commercial wharf, but it's more of a tourist attraction, and there's quite a few restaurants and fish markets there. and souvenir shops. Very colorful. This is sort of a relic turned into an icon. This is the Monterey Bay Aquarium, formerly the Hoven sardine plant. When the sardine industry was booming, this was one of the major processing plants, and until the sardines all went away, John Steinbeck said they were, when asked about that, he said they were all in cans. And in 1974, they closed. And 1984, the aquarium refurbished the building, and it's world famous now, Monterey Bay Aquarium. This is a relic of the sardine industry in the back of Cannery Row. And I guess this is where they unloaded the catch of the day, and it's just a relic. This is a lost relic, Anthony Boy. It was painted in plein air, and it was built at the Monterey Boat Works, which is now on Breakwater Cove. But this building houses the Stanford Hopkins Marine Station, research station, and the boat was sitting out in this field, and they just kind of let it deteriorate and rot, and it's no longer there. But the story is that the owner of the boatworks wanted to build a pleasure yacht, and while he was building it, he didn't have any buyers for it. He just did it on spec. And a fisherman came by and really liked the hull, and he had it converted into a fishing vessel. So that's why it's unique in the construction, but it's no longer there, sadly. This is Hawk Tower along Scenic Road in Carmel. Robertson Jeffers built this tour house, and he wrote a poem about it. One of the lines is, "I threw stones in the sky." He built it from the boulders down on the beach, Carmel Beach, Carmel coastline, and it's open to the public a few days a week. And he resided next to it. Very famous poet. I think he was poet laureate in the 40s, 50s. This is a watercolor of the former Odello artichoke farm. This is a complex living quarters and barn, and it no longer produces any agriculture, but it was bought by Clint Eastwood, and he turned over the zoning rights to the Big Sur Land Trust. They were going to develop this, so it's protected now. I don't think Clint owns it anymore, but this is a little sketch I did as a demo at the Carmel Mission. Now, if there ever was a place that's perfect to paint in, the Mission is my ideal of the perfect place to paint. It's protected from the elements, the wind. It's quiet, serene, has a very peaceful ambience, so you can really concentrate there. Not too many tourists or onlookers come up to you, but it's a really pleasant place to paint. This is the in the courtyard, the fountain. There's two fountains, two courtyards. This is the other courtyard with the Matias, the front courtyard, and the Matia poppies, named after the veils that the Mexican women had to wear in church. This is kind of a fun little painting of the Mission. They resurfaced and re-roofed the Mission about 8 or 10 years ago, and I just kind of like the colorful vest that the workers were wearing and the scaffolding. It's just a little different. Watercolor, small watercolor. This is a nocturne of the Mission, the front of the Mission, and they rebuilt this wall. I don't think the bougainvillea are there anymore. This is the inner courtyard, painted in plein air mostly, and the morning light about 11 o'clock in the day, in the morning. This is St. Mary's Church in Pacific Grove, and it was the first building built by a religious group in Pacific Grove in the 1880s. Pacific Grove was sort of a retreat for religious groups, but prior to this, they all met in tents. So, and this structure was designed by an English architect from a similar church in Bath, England. It has Tiffany windows, a couple Tiffany windows, and a lot of beautiful stained glass. This is Point Pinos, Point of Pines lighthouse in Pacific Grove. It's the oldest working lighthouse on the West Coast. Second oldest lighthouse to be built on the California coast. And the light still works, and it's situated on the point, surrounded by the Pacific Grove golf links. This is another view of the lighthouse. This is from Crespi Pond, which is on the golf course also. That's the 16th hole, and the little night heron there. I don't know what he was doing out during the day, but once in a while you see him. This painting has been sold. This is Carmelite Mission Monastery, and it's home to cloistered nuns. They um, they're very, very rarely, you can't visit them, or they can't come outside. They can't speak to anybody. Um, it was built by a relative of one of the nuns in the 1930s, and it's a beautiful building, great views from the monastery and to the monastery. It was built in 6 months. Uh, the wind's blowing, it's a little rough out there, but it's a beautiful spot. This is another um, uh, piece of property that Eastwood bought. It's the Carmel Mission Ranch, and it has hotel accommodations and a restaurant, and they hold weddings there. And this is looking out over the meadow toward Point Lobos, and the lagoon is right here in the midground. And these are his sheep, his herd of sheep. There's one black sheep right there. He saved that from development too. Trees. Since the early or late 1800s, the peninsula has been an attraction for artists. Come down here and paint from San Francisco, and they painted the spectacular coastline, but also trees were a big part of their subject matter. There was a gallery in Hotel del Monte, which is now the Naval Postgraduate School. And a lot of prominent artists, Arthur Matthews, Armin Hansen, Percy Gray, they all showed there. But you can kind of feel the presence of the artist, the old California Impressionists, when you're painting there. This is the same location, Pescadero Point and Pebble Beach. The trees are very dramatic along the coastline because they face the wind and the ocean and adverse conditions. Unfortunately, that's a threat to these beautiful trees. This is Monastery Beach, and this tree blew down this past winter. To me, it was an iconic tree. It just made a great motif, and I painted it probably over 25 times, maybe 50. There it is again, looking from the other direction. That's Monastery Beach out there. Beautiful tree, but unfortunately, it was the bank beneath it was eroding over the years, and this is a watercolor, same tree. This is with Point Lobos behind it. Clouds over Point Lobos. And there's the tree now that sadly it just couldn't hold the ground underneath it, and it just fell down. I'll miss that tree dearly. This is another tree that was a victim of the storms. This is Stewart's Cove and along Scenic Drive in Carmel. Carmel Point is right there. Point Lobos is back here. And that's what it looks like now. Tree. I think that's it there on the ground. But again, it was growing on a bank, situated on a bank that the root system wasn't strong enough to hold it. This is a stand of eucalyptus trees down on Ocean Avenue, next to the beach. I've painted this quite a few times, and the city cut these down, sadly, and that's what it looks like now. They say it was to protect these houses up here, but I think it was more to do with the view that they were blocking. This little tree still is standing. It's down at Ocean Avenue too. Kind of dramatic cypress tree. And finally, this is an iconic 7th hole at Pebble Beach Golf Links. When I first came to California, I had a job in the golf business. My family was involved in golf. My dad was club pro and 2 uncles. So it was pretty familiar to me. And I applied for a job at Pebble Beach, and I got it. And it was a fun job for a year until I could get established. I was really wanting to go into my formal education of graphic design and illustration, and that job helped me get established and get to know people and around the area. And I did some work for Pebble Beach too, but the first time I played this, when I started working there, it was a dream come true. And because of all the history at Pebble Beach, and I came up to this hole. It's only 100 yards long, and I proceeded to hit 3 balls over the ocean, and the ocean over the green. The wind was at my back, and I just couldn't keep it on the green, on the continents here. So I've heard stories that pros, they've hit anything from a 3-iron when the wind's against them to hitting a putter off the tee to keep it from going into the water. So once again, the show will end on the 31st, and this is watercolor, but the paintings will still be available, all the unsold paintings. So thank you, and hope you get over to see the show, even though it's almost over. So thanks. Bye.